The story today begins with a boy named Bell, who has a rather strange love for his sister and wants to do everything to protect her. However, it's the same old story. He is a loser who gets expelled from the family, trains with a Buddhist monk, and returns overpowering, ready to take on everyone. But upon arriving home, he sees the city on fire, and when he finds his sister, she has already moved on to her next reincarnation. In that moment of rage, he is attacked from behind and eliminated, reincarnating on the exact day he is supposed to receive his divine weapon. But hold on, I haven't explained what a divine weapon is. Some weapons can only be found in the hands of those who are privileged. They are divine weapons. These weapons are the materialization of a person's soul. Thanks to this, these equipment are endowed with unique abilities. A family belonging to the nobility once defeated the evil god, the Catastrophe Duchy. Since birth, its members possess everything: bodies suited for combat, exceptional talent for battle, and divine weapons that are truly incredible. The protagonist was born into this family, which wishes to one day become a great hero, who will proudly wield the divine weapons he possesses. At least, that's how it should have happened. But at the oracle ceremony, when someone's divine weapon is manifested, he ended up discovering that he would have none. It was the first case in the history of his family where this happened, becoming the first major failure. Because of this, he was seen as inferior and faced constant humiliation, being called a public embarrassment. The second son of the family, Zane, managed to be a natural jerk. For him, useless people like the protagonist, who couldn't have a divine weapon, didn't belong there. He used this as a reason to unintentionally massage the protagonist's face, performing temporary facial harmonizations on him. Jessica and Sarah also watched this and did nothing. The former seemed to enjoy the humiliation sessions as well. Sarah, on the other hand, didn't like what was happening. She tried to intervene in some way, but Jessica made her trip and fall to the ground. She did this because the girl was called there to observe and witness what happens to those who are weak and without a future. Seeing Jessica stepping on his friend's head, the protagonist became worried, but he was in the middle of the involuntary massage session and was reminded of that. His aggressor said that filthy hybrids are very attached to each other. They are the children of concubines, which is why they are constantly humiliated by others, being called mutts. After being beaten, he apologized for not being able to defend Sarah, as he was too weak. With a broad smile on her face, the girl said he shouldn't worry, as she promised she would always stand by him. But the boy didn't want to remain in that situation. He told her he would become stronger and stronger, even if he didn't possess a divine weapon. Also promising that he would protect the girl with his own life. After they embraced, she thanked him for making that promise. Not being able to live up to that promise, as a few days later, he ended up being banished from the family. Immediately he began to lament, flooded with rage, for he knew she would be pursued. He needed to be strong enough to take her out of that place. Mastering skills with a normal weapon is useless against a knight who has a divine weapon. That's why he needs to become even stronger. In fact, he has no other option available. He presented at the counter of that shop a bag full of money. Showing the gold coins, he said he would take one weapon of each type. An unusual request. The seller thought the boy was about to embark on a personal war. 2 years had passed since he had been exiled from his family. Riding a horse, he continued traveling. The boy had learned something, but he still didn't have a divine weapon. Before him were several monsters. He had various weapons he could use to defeat them. He was also eager to finally start the fight, as he had developed mastery over all of them, becoming formidable. He even possessed a firearm, ideal for collecting money from debtors. There was nothing the creatures could do against him. At the end of the fight, a hooded man seemed to be watching everything, until he decided to speak to the boy. He wanted to know if that boy always carried all those weapons. And if this was the concern of someone who was unable to have a divine weapon, he had already forgotten the trap he had set and wanted to find someone he could trust. Someone with enough potential to eventually become a great hero. That conversation seemed like the ramblings of a madman. But an intense blue glow appeared in the man's hand, shooting a bolt towards the boy. A shining object was in front of him. It looked like a weapon, leaving the protagonist genuinely impressed with what was happening. The man said he would trust the boy, leaving that weapon with him. Still embedded in the ground, the object shone as it released energy. He thought it might be a sword and began to approach it, until he finally touched it with his hand. Finally, he realized that what he had received was just the sheath of the sword. The divine sheath of Avalon, an item that allows its user to store their divine weapon and hand it over to another person. Passed down from generation to generation, it now holds the weapon of those who were the 5 greatest in history. The boy's determination is focused on gaining complete mastery of that item. 3 years had passed since that event. He is with his mentor, and a dragon flies over the sky. The creature advances toward them, furious. It had prepared its flames, ready to annihilate the living from the face of the earth. But that heat is not concerning for the protagonist, who is not impressed. Immediately invoking Avalon, the white sheath appears in his hand. He holds it as if he were drawing a sword. Concentrated, he commanded the power to manifest, until the windshield of Achilles appeared in his hands. Powerful enough to generate an effective protective barrier against the dragon's attack. To attack, he invoked the hammer of the storm, Mjolnir. Jumping onto the dragon, with the hammer positioned to deliver a tremendous blow. The strike was forceful and crushing, sending the creature's head toward the ground. A single blow was enough. The mentor said he had mastered Avalon. He said he could go to his sister now, for not even an S-level paladin would be able to stop him. Hearing those words, hope filled the protagonist's gaze. With great joy, he said he would do as instructed. 5 years had passed since he was banished, and now he has plenty of power to rescue his sister. As he advances, he hopes that Sarah is safe, for he is on his way to her. To rescue her from that despicable place. However, upon arriving in the region, he saw that fire had taken over everything. He does not know what could have happened, becoming immediately very worried. Amidst the fire, he saw some banners raised. He soon realized that those symbols belonged to another duchy. To Roth Windsor, a civil war was underway. He enters the castle, searching for his sister. Desperate, approaching a large gate that is already ajar. But upon entering the hall, he is confronted with a lamentable scene. There was a body lying on the ground, severely injured. It cannot be that this has happened. That is the body of his beloved sister. He picked her up, very worried. The girl showed no reaction. It is possible that the worst has already been consumed. He remembered the words he had said to her, and the promise he was unable to keep. Completely desolate, a desperate scream filled the air of that place. After perfecting his power, he was unable to accomplish what had motivated him all these years. A bolt of energy was coming toward him. Passing through the boy's body, his chest had been pierced. There was another presence with them. That threatening mana surely belongs to a warrior at S level. The man knows that this is Bell, who had already been banished, but the boy cannot understand how he had been recognized. But that no longer matters, for he would keep his sister company in the afterlife. Definitely, this is the person who reaped his sister's life. Raising his blade, he was prepared to end the protagonist, who was completely consumed by destructive grief. But already weakened, he can do nothing. After these nefarious events, he found himself before the priest once again. Looking at his hands, he does not understand how he had been sent to that place. That stained glass is known to him. It is in his family's cathedral. The ceremony is underway, and he is sure that he had died. If this is the ceremony, it can only mean that he has returned in time. The priest instructed him to join his hands and visualize his own divine equipment. But the boy knows what happened the first time. At that point in his life, he had not yet inherited Avalon, and was already hoping to be banished to restart his journey once again. Only something different happened, which surprised him. There is no doubt what is before his eyes is Avalon. He believes he will do everything again this time. With the power he possesses, he will be able to change destiny. Now is when his life will truly begin. This is unusual even for the priest, who has never seen anything like this and has something to say about it. Anticipating what the priest would say, he knows that fighting with a sheath would not be possible. Caught off guard, the priest said that was not what he was thinking of saying. Even so, the boy who overflowed with confidence warned him that he should not worry. That is the best divine weapon that exists. Already in the castle corridors, he is going after his sister, because if he has returned to the past, she must still be alive. His past life is still very recent, and he is very worried about Sarah. Finally, he managed to reach her room door. Sarah greeted him with a wide smile. Indeed, she is alive and healthy, and she radiates the same beauty he remembered. Seeing her brother, whom she did not expect, the girl went to him to give him a hug. For she also wants to know how his ceremony went. The boy does not respond, as he is very happy that she is still alive. That hug was so sudden that Sarah wondered if something had happened to her brother. He still regrets not being able to save her in his other life. The memory of the pain is still very intense for him. He will not allow his sister to go through that suffering again. It didn't take long for the girl to complain about the hug, as it was too tight. Even so, everything was fine. She was happy to have received that hug. Only then did she notice what was on the boy's face. Tears were streaming down his eyes, and she still does not know the reason. Running her hand over his head, she comforted him, and said that everything would be alright, for they have each other. Hearing those words warmed the heart of the boy who, apparently, grew up in Alabama. The jerk brother also entered the room, noticing that the mutts were getting along very well. He had already been looking for Belle for some time. That is Zane, a great sadist. The jerk said he had already heard the news. His brother obtained a peculiar item during the ceremony. Apparently, the priest really enjoys meddling in others' lives, a true gossip. Belle confirmed that he had received a sheath. His brother cannot hide his disdain. Laughing uncontrollably, he said that a sheath is not a weapon and serves very well for that poor soul. He would never be able to fight with that, and the two gathered there are indeed very foolish. The protagonist had to hold his hand, as the urge was to perform an orthodontic procedure without anesthesia on the jerk. So, he gave him a chance to take back those words. But the jerk did not understand that stance. He was not used to seeing his half-brother react. Then, the protagonist warned him once again to take back what he had said. Feeling that it was a challenge, the jerk became even more filled with hatred. Now, he would teach a lesson to the son of the concubine. For the jerk's complete misfortune, the protagonist has years of hard training with his mentor, landing a solid blow to his stomach so that he reflects on his actions from then on. The poor boy only did not regurgitate his lunch because the food was already closer to the end than the beginning. He fell to the ground, prostrated over himself. Perhaps he felt the blow to his liver, and his blood pressure dropped. Looking at the jerk, he advised him not to threaten Sarah again, or he could end up being forcibly taught to be more polite. The jerk says that his half-brother is a bastard, and now he was going to escalate the violence. With his divine weapon, he promised to make his brother beg for forgiveness, as he would scorch his skin. Seeing that the jerk wanted a serious fight, then, it was all good. He warned Sarah to step back, as things were going to get quite entertaining now. But he reassured her first, as everything would be alright. Preparing for battle, he summoned the powerful Avalon into his hand. His brother does not believe he can be defeated with an object that is not even a weapon. For he is already a level E paladin, a bastard would never stand a chance against him. That is actually relevant. Paladins are divided into levels. Everything depends on the strength they possess. Upon receiving divine armament, they automatically go to level F. Being able to channel mana into the armament, they rise to level E. From level D upwards, that same mana can be channeled into special attacks. To go beyond level B, it is necessary to know how to use the unique abilities of that equipment. It is bizarre that the jerk boasts about being at level E, as he still has a lot of development to do. His exaggerated confidence only makes the jerk even more irritated. Being even more provocative, he said that his brother was being very cute. That had been the last straw. He was going to attack the mutt in a devastating manner. Sarah became worried, as she was sure things could get complicated. Bringing his hands to the sheath, he summoned the Sword of Light to be called. Caliburn appeared before them, a truly formidable sword. The fool couldn't believe it, as the flames from his weapon were ineffective against it. Not to mention that he had no idea what that sword was that had appeared. The counterattack was enough to make the fool lose his balance. Even more surprising is that his divine weapon was cut by that sword. The boy watches, terrified, understanding that he has been completely subdued. Still unable to comprehend what happened, he is sure that there was nothing in that sheath. Approaching him, the protagonist wants to know if he is satisfied, or if he wishes to beg for forgiveness now. As the good loser he is, he said he was deceived. That he didn't know the boy was armed, because if he had known, he wouldn't have attacked, since he is a coward. He was still able to threaten him, saying he wouldn't forget this. Fleeing the room, scared and with his underwear completely obliterated, the protagonist made sure to follow him, as they had not finished what they had started. In his hand now, is a fire-breathing lead shooter, the Ragnarok. With the fool in his sights, he took a single shot. The poor soul tries to escape, realizing that the shot had passed too close to his face. It hit the wall in front of him. Contemplating the hole left by the bullet, he became even more frightened. Everything was becoming increasingly confusing for him. It doesn't make sense that he now has a different weapon. As he had just used a sword, it is impossible for him to have more than one divine weapon. The protagonist advised him not to forget this. He shouldn't provoke Sarah again. In any case, it is up to him to choose what he will do from then on. And the fool no longer has any underwear to destroy. His fear continues to grow. With coldness in his gaze like a lone shark collecting, he warned that the consequence of the fool's actions could earn him a hole in his forehead. Desperate, the fool ran away to save his own life, while the protagonist stored his divine weapon. Sira, who had seen all of this, was utterly impressed. She was fine and wanted to know if those weapons were her brother's divine armament. Then he reminded her that he had already warned her. She could leave everything in his hands. The girl thought that was really cool, and what the protagonist desires is to continue protecting that beautiful smile. He would never lose to anyone again. Elsewhere, the fool went to tell what had happened. He had gone to his father to tell the Duke that he had been humiliated like a dog. The Duke is interested that Belle has received several divine weapons. The fool warned that this is not normal and that Belle must have made a pact with Beelzebub, the lone shark. And because of that, they should banish him from that place immediately. But the Duke didn't even hear those words, as he was too entertained by the possibilities of having a powerful heir. Rising from his throne and completely ignoring the boy, asking where his father was going, he learned that he was going to see Belle. He needs to check for himself if this is indeed true. After that event, the boy needs to recover a bit. He managed to win the battle, but that is still the body of a child. He was quite exhausted, as he is still not able to control his mana with mastery. That should have been a fire shot, but it ended up being a conventional shot. He is definitely at level F. He still needs to improve his strength, but he knows he cannot remain at this level of power. He began to remember the battle he had seen. They were the Rothwinsers. They are a family with whom they have an old rivalry. Anything could have been the spark for that conflict. Certainly, the one responsible for attacking him must be from that family. But this time, things will be different. He will defend his sister, and for that, he also needs to be more respected in his own family. The doors to his room were opened, and he has no idea why his father was there. Galleon had accomplished great feats in the great battle that took place 20 years ago. Alone, he was able to fight against the evil god. He carved his path through the Dark Continent, using his sword to do so. He is recognized by many as the Saint of the Sword, and by his father's side as the little fool. Now he understands the reason why his father came there. He is definitely being accused of something, but this is the perfect situation for him. The fastest way to be valued is to be noticed by the head of the family. Bowing, he showed respect to the Duke. The old man said that the boy had changed a lot since the last time they saw each other. But on that occasion, he came to him as a father, and asked him to be more relaxed. Full of maturity, he said it is not possible, as one word is enough to be misunderstood, and he must be responsible in front of the Duke. The old man was enamored by the maturity of the little brat. He asked the boy to stand up, and so he did. He would do as the boy recommended and remain there as a duke. Immediately, his presence became overwhelming. The Duke's pressure is frightening. He learned that his sons fought, and conflicts between siblings are forbidden. Belle showed a bit of regret, and the little jerk believes he will see the bastard punished. No one in that house can stand before the Duke's power, but the boy had already established himself. He said that he and his younger sister were being harassed. In light of the confession, the Duke asked if his orders had been violated due to childishness. The boy confirmed once again, and the Duke wants to know if he truly does not regret disobeying his orders. Belle said that abandoning those he loves is an even greater disgrace for a paladin. He would fight to defend his sister, even if the opponent were his older brother. That is the path of the knight he wishes to tread. The Duke pointed the tip of his sword at him, asking what he would do if the opponent were him. But the boy maintained his stance. He would not hesitate, even if the opponent were the Duke himself. The old man tried to intimidate him with a glare, but ended up liking his son's resilience. He said he would let this incident be overlooked, to the little jerk's discontent. And, looking at him, he was disappointed that Zane had harassed his own sister, and subsequently lost a fight. The little jerk did not expect to receive this reversal. He said that he should be ashamed of that, and not present himself before him. He understands Belle's choice, and that it was brave of him to say that, knowing the consequences of his words. The boy apologized for being impetuous, but his father said that this is the attitude he expects from Knights of Catastrophe. Now, he wishes for the boy to show him his power by revealing his divine weaponry. He would do as he had been asked. A blue light began to emerge from between his hands, and the Duke was even more impressed. That sheath is Avalon, his divine weapon. But for the Duke, this makes no sense at all. He had heard rumors of the legendary weapon that carries the spirit of the original paladin, which is wielded by great heroes throughout history. He asked him if it was true that he had used a sword and a firearm, and Bell confirmed. He said that these weapons reside in Avalon. To prove his words, he showed both to his father. Immediately, the Duke began to wonder if this was really possible. And to his total surprise, he heard that the boy can only use 2 at a time, but that there are 3 more weapons in the sheath. Definitely, that son of his is destined to be the next hero. He told him that he has no interest in the weak, but that from now on he has high expectations for his future. Leaving his room, he asked him to keep working very hard. The doors finally closed, and the boy could rest, for that pressure was overwhelming. He just needs to keep striving, but it's a shame he has a child's body. He needs to reach level D as quickly as possible, and for that, he needs to defeat monsters to absorb more mana. He would go to the nearest forest to hunt some orcs. Night finally came, and the head of one of the creatures is lying on the ground, without its body. In the forest, the annihilation continues. There was nothing the creatures could do, for something much fiercer was there. The beast's teeth are sharp as iron swords. It roars furiously, establishing its dominance. That forest certainly brings nostalgic memories. After being banished in his past life, he trained there for some time, but something feels strange. He has been walking for a while, and has not encountered any monsters yet. Amid the bushes, a creature watches him. He finally finds some orcs, but they are a bit disassembled. Their pieces are now part of the forest's decoration. It is a scene as frightening as it is unusual. And while trying to understand, he is startled by a terrifying sound. The boy looks back to understand what it is. An attack was already underway, and he had to defend himself. The force was greater than his, throwing him far away. This was not the creature he wished to encounter. That is definitely Fenrir. The reason there are no monsters in the forest is a level D creature. He has almost no mana now and must be at most level E. It would be good if he could get out of there immediately. But, looking into the creature's eyes, he knows he would be executed immediately. The boy needs to stay very alert to avoid becoming dog food. Being caught off guard, he realized that the monster's speed is greater than he imagined. He had to throw himself away from the attack. In his hands, he summoned the fire-spitting pistol. He fired a few shots at the creature, which was able to dodge all of them. Now, he is in trouble, for sure. Since his mana is still low, the spells are not very fast. The firearm will not be effective. He needs to try something else. With the sword in hand, he charged at his attacker. The paw full of sharp claws is a formidable threat, but the boy managed to dodge that devastating attack. And because of that, he found an opening. He struck at the creature, but it managed to dodge as well. He needs to rethink his strategy. That is a real risk he is facing. If he were at the height of his power, the forest dog would have already been annihilated. The wolf lunges at him once again, furious. Bell knows he cannot match that speed, so he had to stand still to defend against that attack. And because of that, he ended up taking some damage. He had been cornered, and now he cannot escape the center of that barrage of attacks. Little by little, he was being subdued by the creature, which advances toward him, ready to have its afternoon snack. Remembering that he had just reincarnated, he could not allow his life to end so prematurely. He needed to summon Achilles' shield. This way, he could defend himself and attack. However, the creature's agility is formidable, and he was caught off guard from the side. The boy, upon falling, let the shield slip from his hands. The fight cannot continue at this pace, or he will end up becoming the food for that aggressive dog. The weapons he had used so far were completely useless, and using the hammer against it will also be difficult, as it has attacks that are too slow. He only has one weapon left to try. With no choices, he needs to use it immediately. The creature is ready to take his life. The boy closes his eyes, concentrating. About to be hit, he called Aegis to him, but the creature's blow had already been executed. Unexpectedly, nothing happened. A gauntlet is in his hand, surrounded by dark energy. He didn't want to have to use it, but this is better than dying a second time. The creature is prepared to attack. Only the battle had already ended. The boy has also become much faster. With the hammer in hand, he is on top of the creature. It will not be able to keep up with him now, and the hammer was already prepared to crush skulls. A precise and crushing blow struck the creature, which writhes in agony as its teeth are rearranged in its mouth. Aegis is the gauntlet of darkness, enhancing the physical strength of its user. But that is not all that happens to those who use it. He begins to hear a voice giving him orders to destroy. The wolf remains alive and angrier. Time passes and the user only grows stronger, and he desires to take lives. Eagerly waiting for the creature to approach him. Dodging all the attacks coming his way. Now it is the wolf that is at a disadvantage, and the boy seems to be very entertained by it. Finally, the wolf no longer belongs to the land of the living. It is a relief for the protagonist that he was able to end that swiftly. That weapon cannot be uncoupled in combat, and its effect becomes more intense as time passes, sinking its user into darkness. Now it remains to be seen why there was a Fenrir in that forest. While he was thinking, he saw that the hammer was different. It seemed to be completely charged with energy. By defeating the creature, he will be able to use its attributes. Defeating powerful creatures is better than defeating weak monsters. He can't wait to test that out. In the castle garden, his sister enjoys the afternoon under the shade of a tree. Finally, the flower crown was completed. She hopes her brother likes that gift, but someone snatched the crown from her hands. The girl said that the flower crown is horrible, but that it is suitable for a filthy girl like the one who made it. That damned one is named Jessica. She wants to know what Spencer thinks about it. The bizarre-looking boy agrees with Jessica. He is there, just to obey her. As she threw the flower crown into the air, it was immediately destroyed. Spencer used a whip for that. Sarah did not like that, but she is defenseless. Jessica is bored. There is nothing to do there. With a weapon in hand, she invited Sarah to go with her, because it is time for her to practice a bit to improve her aim. Firing a shot at the girl who shrank back, frightened, Bell had appeared, defending the shot with his sheath, stating that he would play with Jessica. Sarah is surprised as she did not see him arrive. In fact, she is completely oblivious to her surroundings, never seeing anyone approach. Bell said he was also looking for an excuse to test his divine weaponry. Only Jessica did not understand what was happening. No mutt would stand in her way. Bell is too busy trying to comfort his sister and telling her that everything will be alright. And now he has something to do with the sassy girl. The boy with the terrible hair tried to position himself in an intimidating manner. He knows that this boy is a kind of servant to Jessica. So he made a point of showing himself to him as the Duke's son, but he would not show respect to someone who was the son of a concubine. That only made the protagonist irritated. Jessica wants to know why he is so confident, since he is weak and got lucky beating Zane. They believe that the protagonist was lucky and that Zane was careless. And using only a sheath as a weapon, he must be the weakest of the weak. Closing his eyes, he stated that it is better for her to see for herself if what he has is luck or talent. Jessica, who did not expect all of this, became anxious, ordering Spencer to take care of that trash quickly. Something he would do with great pleasure. Wherever his whip touched, ice formed. Even so, Bell was not impressed. Spencer is a D-rank paladin and has an ice whip as divine weaponry. And he is much stronger than the loser who is only at E rank. But the protagonist is the protagonist. The boy said he would freeze the legs so that his victim could not escape. And then the arms and body until he could not move anymore. Ending with slaps to his face until he became unrecognizable. Bell said that he talks too much. And now the extra will be reminded that he is an extra. Spencer recommended that he not be underestimated. And now he would turn him into a popsicle. The whip was already heading towards Bell, but the boy was able to dodge easily. Jessica does not believe he was capable of that. For a D-rank paladin, he is not bad, but he is still an extra. And the protagonist trained hard in his past life. That was nothing more than a child's pastime. Sarah was even more impressed. Her brother seemed to be dancing. While Spencer became deeply irritated, saying that his victim only knows how to run. Then, Bell would show him that he was not fleeing. From now on, he would no longer dodge. Everyone present was surprised by this overwhelming confidence. Bell wants to see if the sassy one can fulfill his threats. Spencer succumbed to the provocation and charged for the attack. And now he would freeze him completely. The whip lunged towards a Bell who was standing with arms wide open. Striking several times, but nothing happened. Sarah was very worried. The ice had finally formed. His arms and legs were frozen now. If he cannot move, it is time for Spencer to attack his face. Bell wants to know if that is all he is capable of doing. Because if it is his turn to be the attacker. He immediately called for Ragnarok. And the firearm appeared in his hand. For the sassy one, it is impossible that he has two divine weapons. To free himself from the ice, Bell began to release his mana. Now he is free to move around freely. Jessica does not believe that Bell was able to do that. It is not possible that he has 2 divine armaments. In addition to using his attributes in that way. And now it is time to bring punishment until he says enough. Firing intense flames at him. Spencer knows he is in trouble. He tried to protect himself using the ice whip, covering his body, believing that would be enough to block the approaching flames. Bell knows that it won't be difficult at all, since the bullet completely pierced that block of ice. Spencer cannot believe he will be violently oppressed. The projectile struck his chest forcefully. The force of the impact did not penetrate him, but caused interesting damage. He fell to the ground, to Jessica's terror. The mutt destroyed the ice and knocked down a D-rank paladin. And since she is at E rank, she knows she has no chance. The protagonist looks at her and says that it is all over now. The girl invokes her divine weapon. She told him not to come any closer. But the fear is so intense that she cannot wield the weapon without trembling. She fired several shots at him but hit none. Desperate, she begged him not to come any closer. But her feet were hesitant. She fell on her own, as her fear was the most abundant thing in that place. Before her stands someone who could end her life if he wished. Being categorical, he recommended that she not bother Sarah again. The girl is unable to respond as she is paralyzed. All she could do was flee that place while she still had time. Sarah goes to her brother. Very grateful. She wants to know if the whip had hurt him. But he says that Spencer is so weak that it is almost pitiful. Sarah praised Belle's strength. Who said he is only strong enough to protect her? He showed her the flower crown he had made. But the other one had been destroyed. Placing it on Belle's head, he thanked him for always being strong. Belle received a gift from his sister. One day he will make the entire nation honor that kind soul. The problem is that everyone there despises the children of concubines. And proving his worth will be difficult. He needs to be respected. And for that, there is something he needs to achieve immediately. Outside the palace stands the Duke. He is meditating while wielding his sword. His concentration is truly impressive. After a while, he executed some cuts in the air. He was able to cut the falling leaves. Only then did he notice that Belle had approached him. He asked what the boy wanted, walking over to him. He had come to ask the Duke for permission. Interested, he asked what the boy wanted to request. Before asking, he knelt before the Duke. The Duke was impressed by all that formality. He wants to take the admission exam for level C.